Meeting to order. We have the minutes from our last meeting to approve.
I looked them over. I think
Would
they
you like to
look,
make a motion to approve them?
I make a motion to approve last meeting's minutes.
One thing, I don't know.
Or we'll have,
I don't know if it's-
is there any discussion?
Oh, discussion, yes. Item
second
4
to it.
and item 6 are really, they're two portions of the same item.
Yeah.
The topic was the money for
Right.
the water test, and then 6. So I don't know if, does it make sense to put them next to each other?
Or just have it?
Just kind of flip 5 or not. I don't remember, but we must have taken a break,
No, we just,
No, we
yeah,
just
we'll fuck
did
what we
your
know.
motion separately, so I can take out number 4 if that works.
If it's, I don't, it doesn't, it
don't think it
all
matters
reads
that much.
fine, except, of course, I knew that I should go from do 4 and then do 6, because.
Are we amending it?
We have a second on that.
Actually-
I'll second.
Okay, all right, so that's Greg's discussion. Anybody else comments?
No,
All in favor?
Yeah, so we'll just the way it is good, yes.
Okay. We're going to go right to the Cornell Cooperative Extension report.
yes.
You can get out of here.
Less pressure this time.
We also work on graphics too.
Nice.
Yes. So we'll move right along. So I had done 2 updates to the town board, so I kind of combined them for you guys here. So June 1st, I surveyed that pilot oyster reef that I planted under that other grant that we had received. I made a 1 square foot quadrat PVC pipe. You just randomly, it's a standard procedure for surveying anything like this, corals as well. You throw it randomly and you collect anything within that quadrat count measure, and then kind of take it from there. So I did 3 of those. And so average size, as you can see, 27 millimeters, that's about 1 inch. When they were planted, the average size was 9 millimeters. So it shows quite good growth, especially over not even the real growing season, right? They were planted in the fall. In the winter, they don't really filter that much. They don't really grow that much. So that's pretty impressive. I think it speaks to the location. It's nice and shallow, so they get nice, it's not super mucky, nice sunlight, but keep the, what's that word? Irradiance, sorry. Feeling a little fried today.
Too much sun.
Yeah. It's not. But the average number of oysters per square foot was 57, which, so if you think about that, not all of them are going to survive, right? Actually, I found with all of my monitoring of all of our little starter reefs is that every single one, the range of live oysters per shell is 0 to 8, and the average is 2 or 3. So I thought that was really interesting. It's so consistent. The maximum number is 8. Especially, and then it kind of goes down as they get bigger, but you get some solid clumps with maximum 8. So that will go down, but the estimated total number of oysters on that pilot reef is over 42,000 based on our accounts that I had Jimbo's class do. And this is information I had added that I went back and looked at his data sheets that he handed over to me. So and then, yes, you don't need to go back, but it just for reference, you'll see, just to compare the next slides, that pilot reef was about 30 cubic feet. Keep that number in mind. That upper left, I was really trying to use, I don't know why people love GoPro so much, because it was not my friend. I was trying to get video and images of the oyster reef. You can kind of see there's an oyster that's kind of pointed right at the camera.
Right.
And then after it's actively filtering, which is exciting. They're happy, they're thriving. That one cluster I'm holding up is exactly what we're looking to see. Again, this is from June. And then some of them are quite large already. That caliper, how we measure them, is set at about 1 inch, I think, yeah. So that's incredible, right? Not all of them are like that, but Next. So the Spout and Shell oyster reef that we did through this grant that we received, the set tank portion has been wrapped up. We did 2 rounds totaling 52 cubic feet of Spout and Shell to make up the difference of volume of the shell. We had another tank at our facility in Southold. So totaled 113 cubic feet. So that first reef was 30 cubic feet, now 113 cubic feet. So I guess we're talking 143 cubic feet total that we planted. And from this year, estimated well over 500,000 oysters. So I just need to get approval for the way I marked out the reef with PVC stakes, 1-inch diameter PVC stakes. I just kind of took a note from the eelgrass team. That's how they mark out their plantings.
How shallow or deep?
Yeah, I made them, I wanted them to stick out so that people could see. I have a picture that I'll show you. And I'd like to do a final survey later this month. I want to give those oysters, last batch of oysters that we planted was just a couple weeks ago now. So I want to give them a chance to grow and, because those were quite small. We had an issue with the set tank submersible pump. So they didn't get as much flow as they really should have. So they went in kind of small. So I wanted to give them a chance to grow before I did a final survey. And then I'll kind of survey each of the sections and kind of take note. And then I'm just thinking, and a couple of my volunteers asked about this, it's like, well, should you have signage here? Like, let people know it's so cool, like people should know, like not to take from here. So just maybe have a conversation with you guys on the town board about possible signage at the reef site. And then just kind of start thinking about 2024. I've been approached by people who are concerned citizens essentially, who are asking me to look into starting small reefs elsewhere around the island. So yeah, and these are just some fun pictures from our volunteer events before. The shell bagging event was incredible. We had really amazing, it was hot today in May, and they pushed through and bagged, I think it was like 75 bags of shell. So we needed that little pouch when I'm adding it to the set tank up at the top. That's 1 round. That's about 5 million oysters right there.
Really?
Yeah. And then, yeah, I had a good group help me set up the tank as well. I always get a little insecure about some of these events because they feel anticlimactic, but everyone always says like people just want to be involved, and it's like really makes me feel pretty good. Mm-hmm. And so this picture on the left is myself in the middle, Kim Barber, and then my intern, Sophie Clark. She was amazing. I'll just take a note. I did this at the Board of Ed meeting too. Anyone who's watching or is here to please consider going through Jimbo Feinert's externship program that he's working to start. It was incredibly enriching to have her. It was enriching for both of us to have her work with me, get to know her and teach her and learn from her as well. So I think everyone could really think outside the box and try to have a little shadow with you at whatever you do for work.
Year is she in?
She's going to be a senior. So that's why she reached out to me, is she wanted to know for sure whether she wanted to go into marine bio, and she does. It was a success. Oh, and then go back, sorry, I just wanted to explain. So this was actually from a little oyster happy hour event we had. This tray on the far right is like I took them out of the set tank. They're quite small, but you can see all those little specks on the shell. Those are the oysters. And then those three greenish shells, they're slightly bigger from another set tank. You can kind of see, they're a little harder to see. And that it's a gradual look. And then those next ones were from, I think, our first planting. I took off the reef. And then that huge clump was from last year. It's pretty cool, right? So like gradual growth. Okay. So here's just some pictures of how I marked it out. I just hammered these 1-inch PVC stakes into the ground. So that far smaller square is the pilot reef, and then that longer section is what we planted this year. I didn't mark out all of 4 plantings because tedious. So now it's just, we're doing it by year, right? So 2022, 2023, you can see that we were able to, the volunteers were great. We were able to keep a nice, even grid. So I'll be able to,
It looks like you went this way.
and that, yep, exactly, trying to create, yeah.
Underlined it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, will it ultimately be that those like sort of grow together? Like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah, I didn't necessarily want that much of a gap in between them, but, the wave action and wind will kind of even them out a little bit, and then yes, they'll grow together, yeah. Yes, what?
I have a couple of questions.
Uh-huh.
Being that shallow, and having the sun, intense on the, you don't worry about the dissolved oxygen concentration or?
No, the tidal exchange in
It's
the harbor
enough?
is so much so that it's really just healthy, clean, clear water.
Even there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's at the
yeah,
very
like
end.
the
I know.
low
I'm just saying.
tide and high tides are so dramatic there.
You didn't notice any bad stuff in the water this year?
Well, when I was seeding for the town seeding program, when I went out with Butch in Cockles Harbor to seed oysters, we did see large streaks of, I don't wanna say, probably not brown tide, it looked more like a rust tide, red tide, it's hard to say what species it is.
It's
without
moved
running
in and out nonstop. It
Yeah.
comes, it goes. It's in for a day,
Yeah.
it's gone.
Yeah,
4
Yeah.
days. it's
West
gone.
Neck Bay was worse.
yeah, right, I heard reports of such, and in further up into Cockett's Creek, I heard, but
And Creek.
but yes, it flows in and out because of that tidal exchange.
Okay.
But yeah, no, they seem to be doing really great.
That's good, I'm surprised. I've been working with the Mantic Creek keepers and got some pretty low numbers, yeah.
mhm.
I think you get a
Well-
higher exchange here than you do at Banana Creek.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
creeks
yeah,
are
I think
always
so.
a problem. Work I did in Delaware with Fountain Shell and oyster gardening, it's, all these, it was southern Delaware, all these man-made canals, like the further you go up into the canal, it becomes more stagnant.
Right.
And the dissolved oxygen is red levels. But, we actually still had people growing oysters and floating
Really?
cages up there, so. Did I say something else? I don't remember if it's right. So, the scallop sanctuary. Scallops are, I try to stay positive, it's hard this year. So the scallop sanctuary had my colleague Harrison Toby dive on that little spot that we kind of picked out based off some feedback from some of the baymen, and he found 0 scallops. Granted, he did say that he had the same experience in Shinnecock. He did a little scallop sanctuary, later on went and surveyed them, 0 scallops within that area. But then he got reports from the baymen last fall that in Shinnecock, that was the best harvest, scallops are great, everything. Like, can we take credit, are they the same scallops? No, we can't for sure say that, but it's, they do swim, they move. I don't know, it's not we didn't see any crushed shell or empty shell, so it's not like it was, they were just, yeah, so he said he wants to get back in there and figure out what we're gonna do. Are we gonna stick with that location, do a wider, search, maybe just pick a different spot?
Where's this location?
So that was in Cockles Harbor, there's like the sand flat, so if my oyster reef is here,
Yeah.
there's, off one of the points, there's like a sand flat.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
on the flat, just off the flat, closer to the.
Near the red
boat.
near the red buoy out there? Yeah, all right.
You're talking
Not
about
that
up
far
in
out?
the, you're talking about up the end there, right?
Yeah, up at the.
Oh, in the
yeah,
end.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
closer to, Cockles Harbor Marina,
So because eelgrass is sort of important to scallops, so is the hope maybe they've migrated into that eelgrass bed?
Well, so that's what we were hoping for is, we knew it was gonna be sandy, not mucky, but we also knew there was eelgrass nearby. So yes, perhaps they migrated further into the eelgrass. Yeah, that's why he wants to do a deeper dive. Sorry. Next slide, please. So yeah, these are like pictures, it's like looking kind of barren. But he did see one clump of eelgrass while he was down there within that area, so it's kind of, we reported that back to our eelgrass team. It's like, we know there's eelgrass in Cockles Harbor, it is one of these water bodies that does have like the largest amount remaining, but it is also sparse. It's important to remember that's kind of still want to fill that out, do some of our plantings in there to help fill it out. Okay, next. So the bay scallops on the hatchery side, everything was going great. Late June and early July, we saw mortality in both the nursery and field grow out systems, both the 2023, like this year's from our hatchery cohort, as well as last year's that were overwintered all of a sudden. We just saw this sudden mortality. Reasons unknown, temperature, we did have a temperature spike then. We're looking into possible pH issues. This parasite that researchers are investigating, we're all hands on deck trying to figure it out, and thus currently performing a series of late season spawns. So we're kind of in field and hatchery season here, kind of ping-ponging back and forth. But we're gonna take the opportunity to try some different methods, and we'll just report back, like it is a deliverable. We said we were gonna seed scallops. You guys and Suffolk County are the ones that we said we were gonna seed. The other town, through the town program, other towns, like if they kind of just receive whatever we have, so it's like they're not gonna get any, but we said at some point, like you guys are gonna get some. So whether it's gonna be this winter or this in the spring, we're just gonna have to see, but we'll meet that deliverable, we're determined. Okay. These are just some pictures. Scallop spawning, that's all eggs in there, and then they go to, once they're fertilized, they go down to the downweller system. All those, that little brown looks like sand, those are scallops. And filtered seawater gently, constantly goes down through. Next. And then so the surviving scallops from this year, that's what I'm holding in that picture, they look great. So it's not like everything died, we still have some that are looking great. And then we're just gonna, this is just an example of some of the different methods that we're gonna try. Adding some burlap in with this stat collector material that's used for like this experimental side for a project that Harrison's doing. But try to combine these technologies, give the scallops, young scallops, once they reach this phase, a little something to hold on to. Maybe it'll be less stressful for them if they're not putting all of their energy into trying to hold on to a little bit of material, it'll be easier for them and then less stressed. I don't know, we're trying everything.
Kate, was there a hope, do I remember correctly, that these scallops were ones that were survivors?
Right, each year that we breed them. Yeah.
That there was.
And so that's why it was
kind of
real, like, when
shoot.
everything, when
Okay.
the young and the overwintered ones were just like, what happened?
Okay. So far then they haven't shown that resistance you were hoping for.
Yeah, that's why we're like, is it something else now?
Yeah,
So,
right, oh,
yeah, I'm
Climate
trying to stay
change.
positive, but it's getting hard. Okay, next slide. So eelgrass. The Crab Creek temperature logger was retrieved in July, and it's looking very promising in there actually as a maybe little small sanctuary eelgrass and scallop maybe. It's nice sandy bottom. While it was one of our eelgrass team members was there diving to collect it, and he saw it was definitely cooler at the bottom, which is great for eelgrass, and he actually saw some adult scallops and some small clumps of rooted eelgrass in there, which he was shocked. He was very skeptical that I even put a logger in there, and it very vindicated. So they're like, okay, let's consider that. Garner's Creek logger, it's proven challenging. I tried snorkeling to get it. We need to dive. I just don't have the gear over here, so we're gonna send one of the other guys in there. That'll be soon to retrieve it, to get that information. And honestly, it's good because we will have like a full year and a half of data to look at. Then, so next steps, the habitat team is going to actually explore West Neck Bay. I know I've heard reports of it getting quite hot. I've heard reports of possible algal blooms in there. However, yeah, it got really warm,
like swimming in a
high
bathtub.
80s, yeah, However, it's all about that possible groundwater influence. And one of the eelgrass team members, Steve Shaw, the leader, he's convinced that they're like looking at the satellite imagery that there's possible eelgrass in there, or maybe other macroalgae, which is still a sign of possible cooling groundwater coming in. So he wants to check that out. And it's also where Bayman have asked us to consider planting eelgrass. So
So
we're gonna do.
the groundwater that you're talking about is the outflow of the aquifer, keeping this water
Yeah.
out? That's,
Yeah, it's like the shallow depth to groundwater, right?
Yeah.
Down there, so it's just like little springs.
right,
Yeah.
right.
So it's nice and cool. It's a similar thing we found in Napeak Harbor, actually, a section of Napeak Harbor where the eelgrass is holding on, and they looked at it and it's like, oh, look at that. It's because
Yeah,
the groundwater keeping those rhizomes cool. So then we're just gonna start, having conversations about where and when we're gonna do these plantings, and hopefully be able to have more opportunities to get people involved with that. Oh, so then this is just, so the image of West Neck Bay, it didn't come out as well, doesn't come out as well on the screen as on my computer, but that far left, you can see some darker, that's where he thinks eelgrass or some other macroalgae with some groundwater influence could be. And then that seahorse there is a friend of mine pulled up a crab trap at the end of Daniel Lord Road. Yeah, and he found 2 seahorses in the traps, which was like very exciting. Kim Manzo, one of our other teammates who does eelgrass and is the seahorse expert, she's so excited. They are associated with any kind of gear structure, but it also lends itself to meaning maybe there's eelgrass up there, maybe for, or some other macroalgae.
There's definitely algae up there.
Right,
There's
so-
definitely some growing, because I was exploring.
So it's all about, we're gonna check it out, it's very exciting, gives us hope. So hard clams, they're growing well, we have record-breaking numbers. Yep, so they are fully in the Flupsies floating upweller systems at Mattertop Creek at Strong's Marina. We have 12 barrels filled with clams. It should be more. We're trying to get all the oysters seeded for the town program so we can split out the clams, because we have millions. And just a little side note, we were highlighted in the August North Forker magazine, met with the Calamity Janes. They've been trying to talk up what we're doing, and it's just a nice way to, bring it all back here and talk about this work, and also encourage other towns to do it, it's nice to have Shelter Island be an example for other towns.
Yes.
So we're just gonna, even though they are growing well, we still wanna look to seed them in October and November, because for hard clams, the larger they are when at seeding, the more likely they are to survive predation. Crabs like to crush them, so if they're nice and big, they're a lot harder, they'll be more likely to survive. And these are some pictures. This is the upwellers in the nursery stage. You can see they're quite little. So this is from like June-ish. It's like probably early June and then later June. And then if you go to the next, these are the barrels. So this is August. So you can kind of see, we haven't sieved them in a little while. They need to be separated by size, but there's some that are like my thumbnail size. Pretty good. And this is just the spread from the August, that's my hand. There's so many pictures of like my hand holding the shellfish. So the stewardship, outreach, and education, these are all the events that we've had so far with the shell bagging. I did an oyster reflector. Again, it was really nice feeling. I did it at Greenport Harbor Brewing, but it was really nice being able to talk about this work on Shelter Island, using it as an example. And then we did 4 spat on shell plantings, 2 in July, 2 in August. Also did a Mashamic oyster reef talk. They asked me to come and talk to some of their people, and that went quite well. They asked me to do another one later on. Oh yes, and I did get some signage put up at my set tank, which I think I have a picture of. So it's just something, maybe we could make a similar one for if you guys wanted to do a reef site sign. Oh yeah, and then a really nice touch tank table at the Sylvester Manor Farm stand during one of their CSA pickups. That was like another really nice way to kind of reach a different group of people. So next events, and I believe that people did get some emails here. We tried to reach out to the boards. So this Saturday is the On the Water in the Field screening. It's just the annual documentary video production that a couple of my teammates do documenting CCE Marine's work. And this year it will be highlighting this project on Shelter Island. And that's gonna be at Sylvester Manor in the garden. We're trying to lock down the Chiquit for an oyster happy hour. It's proven difficult. Again, like I said, another Masonic Oyster Reef talk, and then I'm working on, I briefly spoke with one of the pre-K teachers about getting maybe a touch tank or some kind of fun activity, because she's saying it's a bummer that the pre-K kids never get to do anything super fun, like they don't get to leave, so it's like, well, we can come to you, you know? And then also working on a proposal for creating some an after-school series through the rec center to get kids involved and maybe like paddle and help us seed the clams and stuff like that.
That'd be good.
Yes. So here's just some pictures from our first seeding. We had everyone come and help break down the set tank and doing some counts and measurements. And there's the picture of my setup on the tank with the sign and my little shell recycling cards and the touch tank and my oyster reef talk at Masonic. It's just all I'm busy. And that's it.
Nice. Okay, do you need a diver for Gardner's Creek? Because Andy commercially does.
Oh, yeah?
We live on a creek.
Possibly. Yeah, 'cause
Get in touch with me.
okay, I will let you know. Yeah, I don't know if there's like liability issues. Yeah, I know. Like, I'm also inclined to go there, but yeah. Any questions or?
I have one suggestion, for the events for the public, if Sylvester Manor and the Masonic Oyster Reef Talk are open to the public, you get the information to Catherine, she'll push it out on the town website, Facebook, and Instagram.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure, the Masonic one I think is more through them, but I'll check with Cindy and Becca and stuff.
Right.
All right, thank you so much, guys.
Thanks for
Yeah,
coming in.
thank you.
Our money at work.
Yep.
All right, so, as you know, the town increased the base grant and money for well relocation and the shallow drain fields. But nobody really grappled with the applications that were either in process or had been just approved.
I think the town board, I thought, decided that if the money hadn't gone out yet, they were eligible for the upgrade. Does that answer your question? Is that what you were asking?
I guess so.
Yeah.
Yes,
So-
I think Catherine was working on that list to see what it is so that we can do a resolution that covers all of the people with outstanding applications, what the dollar amounts were, so that we can just one fell swoop approve them.
All right, so that would be just for the base grant, you think, or would it apply across the board if they had to move their well or they had,
I thought it was across the board.
Yeah, I thought it was
All right,
across
so it would apply just as if they were new applicants.
Yes,
Right.
yeah, so we just have to spend some time reviewing that to make sure it's complete. We'll get it to you first, so you know what the dollar impact is,
Okay,
take it to the town.
well, that answers the question. That was easy. I think that, that's as good as we can do.
So what, do we have to, does Catherine have to go back and see all the ones that are outstanding? Is that how does that get executed, is my question.
Yeah.
Yep, that's the plan.
I mean, there's a list.
Okay,
There's a list.
let's all volunteer effort.
Oh, they probably won't want to get the upgrade or downgrade. In any case, that's great. Many of you probably saw those postcards that were at the Green Expo. Thank you all for helping. I think it was a pretty good event. I mean, I don't know, maybe the location was, I don't know. I mean, there was a lot of preaching to the choir things going on there because it was all, other committees and whatnot. But there were other people that came through there. And, I know that you guys have contacted Greg already. I talked to him from open water testing, just about how we were going to implement it, if it was going to be a hard thing sent to these people. But most of it's going to be through email, from what I understand.
Yeah, he and I are trying to work it out because there are some people who either don't use email or maybe more beneficial to send them hard copies, so we're gonna kind of sort out exactly how to do it. But I think a lot of people are gonna get an email copy of their water report, or their water test. So what we can also do is I told him I would send him a PDF of the card,
Right.
and then people would have all the information to contact, and he could include that in the email. So we're gonna get all that together.
Okay, I mean, yeah, I mean, just to figure out who, because some people are, we'd lose the opportunity if we're not careful.
Right, right. So he and I have been going back and forth. We have to have another conversation. He's trying to figure out exactly how many people should get a hard copy, how many people, or if we should just mail everybody. So we're working it out. I'll let you know.
So then moving ahead with this whole thing, let's say 60 people say, yeah, let's do it. And coincidentally, I ran into Chuck Kraus at the Green Expo, and he was looking for where the table was, because they had just had a meeting of the Hilo Association, at which you guys
With the
were
company.
there, right?
Yep.
And they're en masse interested in doing it, just for,
Yeah.
with condition of West Neck Bay. And potentially, if that was a success and they did something and we were able to help them, perhaps the people in Westmoreland would do the same thing.
Yeah. So I'm meeting again with them next week, just to talk about the process and what it entails and what information they need and who they can talk to.
And then there's going to that next step. What level and how will we implement assistance and, to do this, so to make it easier for people? Let's say there's a group from the center, so what will make it easier for them, and will it cost this committee money?
You're talking about to get them to do the IA process?
Yes, we're putting it out there that we're gonna try and do
Concierge.
concierge. What exactly does that mean?
It's gonna mean different things for different people.
It may, but I mean, I think we need to sort of have like in our crawl, what is it that we're gonna be able to do for them that's gonna make it easier than, me, when I, or you, when you got yours?
Yeah,
I mean, what would make it easier?
but we're, I don't wanna say we're different, but some people are like, okay, I made a mistake, oh, let me give you that back, I'll fix that form, like, okay, I'm just not gonna give up, I'm a dog with a bone. Other people can get discouraged at the first, well, that's incorrect, and they'll need more guidance. I just think, do you wanna just?
I mean, is that an in-house thing that the provider gives them? I mean, or is that something that we need to help foster in some fashion? I'm just, I don't know the answers to these things.
My recommendation would be if someone's interested, that you sit down with them and you help them fill out the application. Like, I think that's kind of what you're offering with the concierge service, is that you sit down, you walk them through the application, and then if they need to get documents on their own, then they know what they need to do, but you kind of hold their hand through the process.
And that could be Catherine, but that could be also here at a work session, at a meeting, if you
Right.
want it. If if you're,
You can set up
If your plate
appointments with
wasn't so
people
full.
and meet with them here to talk about it and go through it.
Yeah.
Depending on what kind of,
I'm like, my time, I don't see myself, all of a sudden having all that time to do that. But I mean, I would be I would be amenable to paying someone to do it, with our funds. I mean, that would be, you had pointed out that there are, it's sort of in our purview to be able to do this.
Right.
Up to a point. So I think we need to kind of noodle this a bit and figure out, what is that incentive? I mean, obviously, something's happened because all of a sudden we have all those people.
we've been out there,
Right. Right, so,
and also, Catherine too, I mean, she, give 6 months here, she, and see, where your timelines up, there's this, coming on onboarding phase, as they like to say in the HR world. And then, and then Catherine, time frees up and she becomes more familiar with the process. So maybe we could be a little loosey-goosey about it and individualistic. So who needs the help, who doesn't, and then try to,
Right.
just are waiting for another few months until the picture becomes clearer. And then, but also we're gonna have all these water tests coming in.
Right.
Right, and that, did you already say this while I have the room? Anyway, that could add to the workload.
Could we invite people to come to this meeting? And do what
A group, a
Kathy just
seminar.
did and do a seminar, right, exactly, here's the process.
We could, if we start getting the feedback.
It could be Catherine for a half hour at 5:30.
Right.
Right?
Or a presentation, I mean, if people see it, the forms, the process,
It's on
yes,
Zoom and then it's on
Yes.
YouTube for
Yes.
reference.
right.
Yeah, that, the idea of it being on YouTube, how do I,
Right.
how do I,
How do I get this doormat unstuck from my snow blower?
Catherine, the old version of what how the system work, is that still up on the website?
You mean the old requirements?
There was a video at
The
the,
video hasn't been
It was
updated
my
that I
snow
know
blower with the thing.
of. There's no update to it.
all right, is the video still there, though?
Yes, that's, I mean.
Okay, that,
Oh, yeah.
years ago, we did when we first started this, 3, 4, 5 years
That was
ago,
the thing.
we did a video. It wasn't specific, it wasn't nearly as close, but, I think you could probably, do a video where people could sit down and look at a video for 20 minutes, and if you gave them, here's the sequence of operations, and this document, here's an example of the document, you fill it out, if you have any questions, presumably.
Somebody who looks like Catherine.
Say that's stupid.
Better at that, probably.
So that should be, there must be somebody around that would want to volunteer for the
Well, I know,
glory.
I know she's not here, but I did talk to Julia about this a little bit. I don't want to volunteer her for anything.
But she just.
But she said that she would be willing to meet with people who are interested in filling out the applications and sit with them and go over how to do it. So I think in her mind, when you guys were talking about concierge service, that was what you were thinking, is that, members of the committee would sit down with people and help them.
But we have to figure out how to get the people in the door.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because both Kathleen Gerard and Kathy Kenny also volunteered to work people through the process.
Yeah.
So, but how do we get folks? Do we put an ad in the?
Well, we're doing this card, this target group of the people who had, signed up for the free water test.
Right,
Seemed to be a perfect group because they seem to be interested.
right.
How do we get people to volunteer who have been through it? Is that what you meant?
No, how do we get folks to come to come and sign up, to come, do we do it at 5:30? Do we do it as do we host something here at this meeting and just say, please come? If you can't come, Zoom in.
But I think as long as you have 10 applications a week.
Okay, maybe, but where are they? They're, as we'll see, at least with the couple that I have, they're, not year-round people, they're not in this triangle,
Right.
they're, they wouldn't qualify under the old guidelines.
Right.
But they are interested and they want to do it.
Yeah.
And they, they're near, the tidal wetlands, so there's reasons.
Yeah.
But they're not necessarily our target group.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we'll get a good response from the water testing.
Right, I'm hoping that
And that will hopefully.
if we can
be
craft what goes out to the people, whether it is a hard copy or, that'll be important.
BJ, did you say there was like 100 people that responded positively to the water testing?
150.
170.
167.
So all of
People signed
them,
up to have
when
their
they get their water test results back, are gonna get that card which says clean water is just a flush away.
Right,
Sign up, for an IA system.
yeah,
Contact our concierge that doesn't exist.
That's where I'm getting at.
Maybe that postcard might not be something we would have.
We will rise to that occasion.
Right.
We will. We'll figure it out. We will.
All right, okay, I mean,
Once we have interest, we'll let it
like,
go.
you know,
No.
holy crap, now what? No.
No, we'll figure it out.
Allocate the resources.
All right,
Under profit, under offer, but then exceed.
Overperform.
Yeah.
all right, so this,
Some dialogue that goes there.
this list here doesn't mean that we're going through every one of these tonight. It just is sort of getting them in one spot of these applications. You know, if some people are ready to act right now, fine. If not, you know, I just want to get working through them. So I guess we'll start at the top.
So Glover is approved. We did approve him. He's in the process of apparently again submitting his financial information. He said he did it before. We don't have the form, so.
We have the form that the attorney has requested, the 2022.
The 2022, okay. So,
So we're just waiting on that.
but other than that, he's ready to go. Yep. Now, I don't think he's got his county or his state stuff yet, so,
But he's applied,
yeah, yes.
right?
He's applying for money, or
He's applying to the county to,
I mean, from us, I mean, you know,
Yes, he's
until he knows that he's got that money in hand.
So he's put in his Shelter Island application. Is he also doing an income incentive? Is that why the?
yes.
That's the deal. All right, so he's
He-
on the road, I mean.
He's on the road and he should be approved soon, but I think it's still a lengthy process because he's got the
The
county and the state. He said he did apply to all of it at the same time. And I get the sense that he understands forms because he's an architect and he should have been able to do that well, so.
Okay. Next one,
George.
Mr. Sirtis, on Lynn Drive. You know, this is one of the ones that I was alluding to that, you know, they have, you know, they're not there all the time, you know, so their nitrogen reduction score under the old way of looking at it was low. They do live in a sensitive area.
Yep.
So that was a good score. But they came out with like a 40, I think was their score, if you were looking at it. And I put on this, I kind of customized this thing.
Are we keeping score again, or?
No, we're not keeping score. I mean, but I just.
Just for your own, yeah.
You know, and I put on here, okay. The minimum score for this project approval is no longer based on a point score. Any point values are for internal quantification purposes, you know?
But, for example, the Waldbauers are the same situation, they're not full-time residents.
Right.
But they plan to be full-time residents at some point in time, like when the kid graduates high school. And, you know, I think their intention is to move.
Right, I mean,
Or if
I don't think we care.
We don't care.
We don't care. We want them, you know, these people here, I'm recommending that we approve a grant, you know?
Right.
Right.
And I say that, you know, yeah, you're right, anything can change and, you know, they could.
They sell the house and it becomes, or
You know,
whatever, right.
Another pandemic and live here full time, who knows? You know, but whatever, I mean, to get the things in the ground, and then this, you know, Shelter Island, you know, it's not a one-shot thing, you know, you have so many reasons why you would want to put one in.
Right.
You know, whether it be to protect the potable water or to protect the, you know, the tidal wetlands. You know, I think what we're saying is, and that's what we're sending out the cards and everything else, is we want the people to, you know, to put them in. So, you know, I'm asking that this be approved, recommending it.
It's approved for 12,000.
12,000, there's no, we had a provision in there for a potential, you know, if down the road something happened with the well, that we reserve the money for that, you know, and so I said, it's possible, yeah. So,
So it's the 12,000 plus the,
but they are not asking for anything except for the base grant at the moment.
well, this is that, but with that, we said that eligibility, that we were gonna put, if it wasn't known that they either didn't need or, if the.
So I put that in there.
Yeah, so it would be 12,000, the total amount would be 12,000 plus 4,000. Set aside, the well set aside, right?
Well, I didn't.
I don't read it exactly that way. I'm just saying that, that we are aware that it's potential that they could have. I mean, I don't want to anticipate and approve money.
Well, I think though it's important for Amber to have some knowledge of if people have not, if the survey, if you've got a letter from the engineer and he says, I'm going to work on this, which is, that passes that criteria, then are we going to need a well yet? He doesn't know. He can't, so we want to have, if we send this up to the town board saying, you should put this much of money aside for this application, that ultimately it'll be coming in, it would be the 12,000 plus the 4,000 that we're gonna, that we expect that, in many cases, we don't expect that that's gonna get used, but.
I mean, if you want to add that to the.
You've got a column in there somewhere that's basically says, we didn't give them 17,000 or 16,000, we only gave
I
them.
mean, so do you want to just say that down here instead of 12,000, you want to put 16,000?
I believe that would be.
Encumbered?
Yeah, because.
Cases?
And.
But I mean, we're.
Unless I have in my list here, I have somebody that, it was a block cesspit that failed. The county came in, she said it was some engineer, which I assume was the county. And so they had the thing had fallen in and the county guy looked at the situation, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, and said, okay, here's what you can do, bang, 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 and the well is fine, all right? So at that point, if you got an emergency correction, emergency replacement, and the guy there, the surveyor from the county says you don't need a new well, then we don't have to put that money, we don't have to set that one aside,
Well, these people here actually have their.
What we could do is on the resolution, say whatever the.
They actually have the whole thing set.
4,000, and if needed, an additional 4,000 for well relocation.
Right, if needed.
But the way I kind of viewed it was that we were going to allow people to come back and ask for expenses that were bona fide things that were unforeseen. That's what sort of this whole thing had. It was in my mind that if, we weren't going to try and anticipate every potential thing that they were going to run into, but we would be amenable to looking at the thing again.
But I think Greg's point is we should encumber it. We can always, in 6 months, unencumber it.
That's the word I was.
So,
I already used that one.
okay. So with that said, I'd like to go next because Mr. Shannon is on,
We haven't finished it, but.
no, I know, but I'm just saying because I have the same questions. I mean, do you always put this?
No.
As encumbered or how?
Well, we're saying that, yes, we would be.
If the design is, or if somebody comes in and says, here's the design, the engineer has said, this is what you need to do, and it doesn't have a new well relocation, and that Suffolk County has said you don't need a well relocation, you don't have to encumber that 4,000. If you're not at that stage of saying, here's what.
This particular thing that I'm working on, it says existing water line to remain, and it's got a red stamp.
So that the county's
So
not
the county is
requiring.
not requiring them to do anything.
All right, so when you do the cover page, as I put here, it is Suffolk County Department of Health Service did not require for this project, right? So then it's I screwed up the numbers in here. I don't know if you know. You noticed the other thing. So it would be, they get the 12, we're setting aside the 12,000 on that. And that's what I would be saying.
Right.
Because the well replacement set aside, it was unnecessary. So,
I just left it blank.
Huh?
I just left it blank. I didn't write
So do
any.
you have a red stamp with yours or just an engineer letter that they've been retained?
It's not a letter, it's the whole design. I don't know if you
So then-
consider
then
that
on
red
that,
stamp.
It'll say,
I don't think theirs has a red stamp yet.
No, I don't think it does. It's just a design. And I asked Mr. Shannon if he needed his well to be moved, and he said no. So I'm assuming he doesn't, and that's why I didn't put that down there.
Right.
Is this red stamp? I don't know.
no.
So, what that means, I guess, is that in that circumstance, the surveyor, the engineer or architect that wrote this up did not foresee the need for a new well. So that would be a situation where you could add it later on if it turns out that, we do have a problem with.
Right, and I'm just, you're never sure about everything, but, so like the next application, which I'm not presenting tonight, but, is one of those ones that is, they even have less nitrogen reduction, because of their occupancy. But, they only have a letter of retention. So they, even though they answered questions, no, they're not gonna have a pressurized shallow drain field, and they're not gonna do this and that.
You don't know it yet.
Well,
They don't know 100%
Right.
what they're gonna do. I mean, they might know about the pressurized shallow drain field, but they don't know. So maybe on this one, this present one,
Are you referring to Cedrus?
yeah. I'm talking about the next one.
Do we want to approve Cedrus?
Well, I'm saying yes, but I would say, let's take out the part about the $4,000.
Yes.
Because it says what it says.
they don't need, they are not going to have to
Stamp,
relocate.
it doesn't need it.
Okay,
So let's just remove that.
that would be correct, yes. I agree. I think that sounds right.
And then I would ask for a motion to approve it at $12,000.
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye, all right. So Cedrus is off the list now.
Can we do my application, which is 19 Tar Kettle, Mr. Shannon, since he's on Zoom?
Okay, that's 09-2023.
Oh, I didn't know there was a WQIP number. You could put that in there, right? Okay. So they are also, they claim they spend 150 days here, so not full-time. They have a block cesspool that I assume is failing. I do not believe that it's an emergency replacement. It's a 2-bedroom. Their reduction is 5 kilograms per year. They would, if we had the scoring, get a 50. However, I did not see a water test, so I don't know whether they have nitrates in their well. Mr. Shannon can address that, I guess. And so I am looking. They are on Tar Kettle, so that's also a sensitive overlay, nearshore overlay. So I vote to approve the application for $12,000.
You'd like to make the motion?
Yes, I'd like to make the motion that we approve the
Any
application.
comment from Mr. Shannon?
No.
So do you have to have your well moved, Mr. Shannon?
It couldn't be. I haven't been told that, and it's brand new, and it's a small piece of land. I don't know where else I could go on it. I'm going to be further away with the new system than I am currently.
Okay.
Okay.
You do not have a water test then?
No, I don't have a water test.
Okay.
But it was gonna go through as an emergency, upgrade because it is a brick system.
Okay,
But because the lot is so small, it may need to go for a variance. So, but it should require a well movement.
yeah, I was confused as to whether, because at the top it says, on his application says block cesspool, and then it says emergency replacement, which was a little confusing, so I didn't know if it was a voluntary update or emergency.
We were trying to do it as like a voluntary emergency replacement
Okay.
because we know that
Failing.
it's a failing system.
Okay.
So we're trying to do it before it was catastrophic.
Mhm.
And so because the lot's so small, we submitted the whole application to the health department for an emergency, and they said that it needs to go for further review because of the lot size.
I see. Okay.
Setback issues.
All right, so in that case, then it is potentially the county may
Set aside.
need a new well then, is that right? I mean, is it not likely,
Probably
but,
not, but you could put it aside just to be safe if you wanted to. But I don't think that it's gonna be
I mean,
necessary.
there's not gonna be much, as Mr. Shannon's saying, there's not much room on the lot.
He doesn't have many options.
All those lots are pretty small.
Yeah.
So just FYI, Mr. Shannon, if things do change in the end, you are capable of approaching us later for, if you have to move your well for further funding.
Okay, thank you.
So is it county, you're still in the county and state application flow?
The applications have already been submitted. and everything.
Yes.
This is for the health department permit to
Ah.
install the system.
Okay.
So there's really 3 phases to every application. You have, the county state grant application, the town grant application, and the health department permit process for the system. So he's done the 2 grants, and now we're waiting on the permit.
So,
All right, so that's a motion. Do we have second for, this is for 12,000 base grant.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay, then we'll go back up the list here.
thank you, Mr. Shannon.
Thank you. Thanks for
Thank you.
putting it in.
Town of Shelter Island, he,
Town of Shelter, I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah.
You put TOSI on the list,
So
maybe it was a typo.
I thought there was somebody named that.
Oh. Misunderstanding.
okay, well,
But maybe not. All
all
right.
right, that's quick.
Waldbauer.
So that's mine. My understanding is that they have their county approval, everything's done. So they're just applying to us, and so it's again, not full-time residents, but their intention is to move here full-time. But their scoring was, nitrate reduction scoring was 15,
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
so.
So they live, so how much do they live here?
Well, I mean, they rent the house out for the summer, they're here part-time,
it must be like four people,
yeah,
something like that.
yeah. So, anyway, they meet all the criteria. So I'll make a recommendation or make a motion that they get approved.
Okay, could I, before, the.
Came out?
12,000, sorry.
Just 12,000.
12,000.
They
They don't need a well roof.
they will not need a well, okay,
And they're not doing shallow drain field.
okay. How do we get people to do the shallow? I don't know.
Not do it. You know,
He's trying to get people to do
To do-
it.
to
And I
do it.
agree with him. I think it's a good idea, but I don't know. How much of an added expense is that?
It depends on the size, but usually at least $5,000 more, 5 to 7, depending.
which we're, between the county and us, they're paying,
Yeah.
paid for.
Covered.
But most of the time, it's a matter of
Space.
size and space and setback encroachment. So in this case, in order to maintain the furthest distance from the well, this was the best option. A pressurized shallow drain field would have actually encroached more on the well because of the way it had to be laid out. So a lot of it comes down to the engineering and what your setbacks are that you have to work with.
So Meg, do you try to get people? Do you encourage people to do that? Okay.
It's just not always feasible.
So I think
So there's a
it's,
motion.
And it's been seconded, I think, right? Did I second it? No.
Did you second?
I did, I seconded it.
All
we're all
in
good.
favor? Aye.
Yeah, I'm okay.
All right, Greg,
I'm not ready to discuss that one. That's a application, this is fabulous that you've put the numbers, that you have a numbering system in there. This is 07-2023, and it's not, I'm not ready for it.
Gal, that's Julia, she said I think we'll wait till,
Right?
you know, she said she would recommend it being approved, but let's wait until she comes.
Okay, we did Shannon.
Jim
We're on,
done, Canada, I'm not ready to move on, though, it's one of the, you know, it's, they have just a letter of intent, they don't, you know, they don't have a high nitrogen score, but they do live right, you know, on West Neck Bay or West Neck Creek. So, you know, that's definitely. Okay, so Tui, anything on Sing on that?
This is the infamous house on
Yeah, there's a.
Fresh Pond.
What's his name?
Vinnie Novak. So I believe that, my understanding is that most of this stuff was done by Vinnie and they inherited with the house. So it's done, stamped, Sherman.
Okay, so that was probably a 15,000 one?
Well, it's,
Well, I mean, I don't know that the grant rolls over for the new owner, they have to apply.
Ah, okay, right.
So it's-
Unless they,
my understanding is they have to do a well replacement because she said the well is under the house.
Right.
So they have to do it. So I'm recommending 12,000 plus 4,000, 16,000.
Because this is a new eligibility application.
Yes.
Okay.
And what's the nitrate score?
10.
Oh,
she's in a trial on that side of the pond.
Seriously? Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, she's also on the pond.
Right, she's
Yeah,
on the pond, I mean, she couldn't be much closer to the pond.
right.
She, you know, Vinnie had.
And we certainly know it's a failing system.
You know, there was a Band-Aid
She's
put
in
on
the
Vinnie's
pond.
system and.
This is a failing system on top of it.
Yeah.
Right, so I mean, it's.
All of
definitely,
those.
You know, very, very sensitive thing. And it's in the area that we do want to target.
Yes.
So I think their occupancy is probably not gigantic. But
Again,
sensitivity of location and failingness of the whole thing, I think it's definitely. So.
Okay.
You moved it.
I moved.
Did you second, anybody second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
This is for 16, correct?
Yep.
For 16, right?
Well, her claim is that there's 2 residents, basically full-time, and then 2 guests, so it's not like it's unoccupied.
I mean, I don't know, I don't think they're all time, but okay.
Well, that's what she
It
said.
doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And it's again, well, we know the house, and we know this septic system has failed, so.
All right,
All right,
good. So Greg Wallace, this is the senior Mrs. Wallace.
right, this is WQI application number 12-2023. And it is for a house on 8 Montclair Avenue. These numbers aren't wrong, these numbers are wrong that are in here right now. I'm just requesting a base grant of $12,000. This is an emergency replacement. There was a safety emergency concern. The owner reported that the existing block cesspool is falling in and requires emergency replacement. I talked to her today and her description of the way some engineer came in and said, do that, which sounded to me like it was an emergency.
It's done, yeah.
It's done.
The system had collapsed, so it was totally sideways, snapped the pipe, it was
Yeah. So even though the property has a relatively low reduction in nitrates, 5.1 kilograms, which,
She
the
lives
ben-
alone. She's basically lives alone.
yeah. The benefit to West Neck Harbor water could be expected to be pretty rapid reduction of contamination from the house because the home is only 270 feet from West Neck Harbor. So it's got a good push. It is the base grant, 12,000. I'll send you the correction. Do you want to correct it? That should be, there's no PSD. That was a mistake. And the well replacement is set aside. The Suffolk County Department of Health Service guy said did not require this for a project. And so I'm make a motion to accept that number 12-2023 for $12,000.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Hi.
All right. Nice work. It is.
Nice work.
I do have a question. Do we have time?
You do?
Sure. On the
You
new,
have old business to.
on the new form, which, by the way, cheers to you for getting this new form because it makes
I'm
life
sorry, yeah,
much simpler.
I had done this and then did I send it out?
Yeah.
No.
So we have this fund request here, and then we have this information here. Is it just a duplication?
The idea was to identify the categories of what the funding was. The section, recommendation A is fund the project at a certain number of dollars. And then the funding amount is broken down, the base
Okay.
grant, PSD, well replacement, total funding. It just seemed like it's appropriate to not be sending up to the town board. If you didn't have that second section in there.
Well,
that say-
could you just put that second section into the fund the project at?
I think that the recommendation should be as clean as possible.
Oh, no.
If it would be, that would be. And the explanation for the recommendation, these two sections are really, that's the explanation for it.
Okay.
It's the technical as well as the financial recommendation.
This is your review of the town board?
That is correct.
I was using the old one.
Yeah, I noticed that, and I apologize.
So.
I-
Put it on the.
It's out.
I send it out just regular email. If it's not up there,
All right, I'll.
No, I think it's there.
It's not on the website, though. The new,
SharePoint.
the new one, no,
Coco's pretty much.
right.
All right, so,
It's the old one that's still on
we'll
there.
evolve into it.
Well, I used
I
it.
used to.
Only because Greg sent it out to us.
But that's okay, look, I think you get it.
I felt roguish, and I said, I'm not gonna send it to James.
Anyway,
That's not what I said.
I know, I can only imagine. Any old business that we would like to,
No?
now we have, some ethics information that I suppose we should, read and then execute and hand back to Catherine. Is that,
I already did mine.
Me too.
I'll
You
reserve.
guys are dealing with money, I would.
This is
consider
not,
ethics.
this is not the ethics.
I would say.
That is that's the plain English version of the.
That's the plain English version. That's
All
the
right, and then there's another version that has,
full
okay,
codes.
okay.
Yeah,
So,
lawyer language.
now it's been 2 years that I think when the first ethics came, and I was aware of how that said. So just reading through this, and I'm copacetic.
And sign it.
Am I supposed to read it now?
No, at your leisure.
Oh, okay.
Here, just.
Taking a slow boat to China, so I'll save it
Candidate for the.
in case when I can't sleep.
Just checking in
Mr.
on
Crowder,
it.
do you have anything to say, to the masses here?
Just listen and learn, listen and learn.
Yeah,
Just wondered if you were.
if you had something to say or,
I always have something to say, so be careful.
okay.
Do this. And this is this just FYI, this thing for the bill for the,
I need
Card.
a signature on the bottom.
do I need to do something with it?
I need your signature.
Approval for. Yeah.
Yes.
Meg, were you guys, there was something about the people that had E. coli.
Oh, yeah, for the water
Double test,
testing?
the second test.
Yeah, so, I can explain that. What, Greg and I both neglected to recognize when we set this up, originally, growing pains, figuring out a new thing, is that when you test for bacteria, if it tests positive, the county requires a confirmation testing. So we've had, just a handful of people who have had positive bacteria tests in their water sample, which means that then they have to go back and do another water sample to confirm that, yes, the bacteria is in the well, and no, the sample didn't get contaminated the first time. So we're gonna have to add those confirmation tests to our original scope, because it's kind of part of the requirement of the official testing.
Right. Shouldn't the people that find out that there's a chance they have E. coli in their water, like, be willing to put the 55 or whatever dollars it is up? You know, it's,
We entice them to do it.
Well, it's one of those things, I mean, we're not saying that we're going to solve the problem for you, but if we're saying we will do the water testing, then the true completion of that water testing is the confirmation test. You know, it's like saying, you know, yeah, I'll do the testing, but I'm only gonna do half.
Well, is it just a test for the E. coli, or is it the whole
Just to
test?
confirm.
No, it's
So it's,
the bacteria.
so it's gonna be less?
It's less.
Okay.
It's just to confirm the bacteria. It's not a retesting.
There's not
of everything.
that many people.
There's only like a handful of them, if that, out of the 170 or 67. So it's just to complete the official testing cycle. But, you know, that doesn't mean that we're chlorinating their wells. That's, anything beyond the water test itself is the responsibility of the homeowner.
yeah,
But, you know, we just need to make sure that the test was done correctly the first time.
yeah, but we've got all what we wanted out of the.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, we've got our nitrate
Right.
number, we've got all the other numbers that are being developed. It just seems that,
Now, is it the WAC that will go through the information and who's doing that, you know?
So Greg,
and then it's some other Greg.
not this Greg,
Survey.
but Greg from Goldman Water Testing, who also does mermaids, they are going to compile all the data for us, and they're gonna give it to us without identifying information.
Right, okay.
So they're giving it to us.
You
in
saw the
areas.
triangle broken in.
Right, no, yeah. I knew that, but I was just wondering, you know,
That's how we're getting it
Greg's
back.
doing it.
And the homeowner is gonna get their results
There.
directly from Greg.
Right.
with the
Including
thing.
our postcard.
With all the appropriate identifying information.
Okay. So
To the
this is, so it's not foilable.
Okay. Anything else that anybody would like to bring up?
Just dinner.
Yes, well, perhaps a motion to adjourn. So moved. Perhaps a second would follow.
We got a lot of stuff done.
All right. Thank you all.
Good, a lot of applications.